6 years ago, there was a TEDx talk, which was the only time the ugly Indian actually spoke in a public forum. And TEDx imposes very strict rules. You have to tell your entire story in 10 minutes. And so what we're going to do today is we have an hour. And what we thought was the ugly Indian TEDx talk answered a lot of the basic questions. Who are the ugly Indians? Why are they anonymous? And things like that. So to refresh everyone's memory, I'm going to play the TEDx talk on screen. The video may not be great, but the audio is good. And we'll listen to a part of it. That was the first 4 years, and then we'll take over from there. Don't let my mask scare you. I'm just trying to stay anonymous. My name is Anamik Nagrik. I'm a proud Indian, and I have one problem with my country. And the problem is, why is India so filthy? I've traveled outside India in neighboring countries in Asia. My friends have been to Africa, and we can all agree on one thing. In India, we tolerate filth on our streets. But why? We can send a rocket to Mars, but we can't fix this problem. Why do we keep our houses clean and our streets dirty? Even McDonald's, who's come to Bangalore, is cleaning the steps of its outlet out there, but you can see how dirty it is outside. They're either incapable or unwilling to fix what's outside. So what's the problem? Why are we like this? And I think all of us in this audience know the answer. It's not my problem. I pay tax, I vote, isn't that enough? What more should I do? And some of you will say, okay, I want to fix it. I don't even know how to start. Let me take you to dreamland. In this dreamland, there is no corruption. The government is strong. Our budget goes up 10 times. Do you think our cities will be clean? What do you think? And the answer is no. I think we all realize it's not about money or systems. It is about us as a people. Look at this picture. Can someone shout out, which city is this from? Look closely. Look at the furniture. Can you guess? Shout out. Which city is this? It's not Bangalore. Look closely again. There's a clue out here, the Bank of India. The other clue is that it's very poorly maintained. There are pawn stains everywhere. This is a restaurant. It is Singapore, and it is Little India, Singapore. And what does this tell us about us? What is Singapore's brand image? Cleanliness. It is a fine city. They enforce laws. They are very affluent. They care about their look. But when a group of Indians lives in one neighborhood, we seem to bring down the civic standards. We can beat the world's best systems. In fact, I would like to say, and I'm an Indian, we are the undisputed world champions of public filth. Why do we need a policeman when we have a traffic light? Because we are a society that doesn't like to follow rules. In Bangalore, dustbins are not allowed. You're expected to keep your garbage at home till the collector comes, but it doesn't seem to work. So one neighborhood in Bangalore, Indranagar, said, let's put dustbins. So they put dustbins and see what happened. We don't like to follow rules, so all the garbage is outside the dustbin. Now this is the problem with us as a society. We need to all admit that we are all ugly Indians, and more importantly, only we can save us from ourselves. And as long as we're emotional about it, we won't solve it. And so, do you think there is any hope? What do you all think? A lot of people have given up. They leave the country, they stay in gated communities. But some people said, no, let us try and fix this problem in an Indian way by understanding the Indian psychology. And so social experiments began on Church Street in Bangalore in 2010, where the idea was simple. Let us understand Indians' behavior from a point of view of culture, behavioral psychology. Let's see what it takes to make an ugly Indian change. But most importantly, without him or her realizing it. We don't like to be told what to do. We have to be fooled into improving our behavior. Can we nudge an ugly Indian towards better behavior in public spaces? And you may have heard of the broken windows theory, which says that if a place is ugly, it becomes uglier. If a place is beautiful, it commands respect. There's another theory in economics called the tragedy of the commons, which means we care for our private spaces, we don't care about public spaces. India is a perfect example of both these theories in action. This is Korumangala. That lady is throwing garbage on the road in a beautiful part of an upscale neighborhood. And why is she doing it? Because someone has already thrown before. What can we do to make her change her behavior without her knowing it? This is a typical example of civic problems in India. Barn stains on the wall. This is on the wall of Deccan Herald newspaper in Church Street. It has been like this forever. Because there is pan stains, people urinate on it, nobody walks on that footpath. So a few people sat and observed it and tried an experiment. This is what they did. They painted the wall, they painted a red band at the bottom, they put some flower pots, and incredibly, there were no more pan stains on that wall. And why? Because the person spitting pan is trying his best to be clean. He chooses to spit into the pot. If he by mistake spits in the corner, the red color masks it. Once people stop spitting, people actually go on the footpath. It works. There are dozens of walls in Bangalore with a red band at the bottom that has taken an Indian solution to apply to an Indian problem. This is very common. This is Indranagar. A young schoolboy is facing a death trap. We see this very often. Has any one of you never seen a death trap? Bangalore is full of death traps. The little boy has to walk around, look at that footpath. And if you go and ask the residents, they have complained for years, nothing has happened. 3 people said, let's fix it. This is what they did. They actually went and fixed the footpath. It has remained fixed for 6 months. What's the message? If you see a problem, you go fix it. Nobody stops you. You can actually make a change. Don't waste your time complaining. Litter bins are a problem. Why? Sometimes they look like animals. They're made of fiberglass. They catch fire with cigarettes. Some litter bins are rusting. They're falling on the ground. And don't litter bins look so dirty that they actually bring down the aesthetics of the place? The litter bin is supposed to make it clean. Sometimes they're not there where you want them. So people improvise. They put litter in trees. So some people sat and said, can we design a litter bin that will not get stolen, that looks beautiful, that people will use, that lasts through weather, and actually improves the aesthetics of the place? And so they came up with something called the Tere bin, which is a designer dustbin. This is on MG Road in Bangalore, Brigade Road rather. The beautiful part of it, it is not stealable. Nobody wants it because it's made of materials nobody wants. It works, it looks clean. And for the last 3 years, there are 200 dustbins across Bangalore. And it has worked because somebody applied his mind to solve a problem as a problem. This is in front of ITPL. The dustbin is exactly where you need it. Near a bus stop, people use it. It has worked. And this is the biggest problem of all, open garbage. This is outside the Korumangala club. You would think they would figure it out, but they didn't. And some people said, let's make this as an example. And this is what they did. It has remained fixed. It is not a photo op at all. And the reason well-known places are taken is that if people who are rich, powerful, and with social pressure cannot do it, then there's something wrong with us. This is outside the house of Dr. Rajkumar. Poor Mr. Puneet Rajkumar has to see this every year. He's got amazing social power. He couldn't fix it. This is what was done. And it has remained fixed for the last 6 months. This is JP Nagar outside Ambarish's house. Again, we've chosen people who are important, who can get things done. But it required the public to do it. This is outside a slum. This is cow dung. This is where children wait for their school bus. It's become a beautiful bus stop. This is outside a tech park. Every tech park in Bangalore, this is outer ring road, has got open drains. There are billion-dollar companies in there. Apparently, nobody is willing to fix this. They're all blaming somebody else. A few people went, made it a safe zone, made it a bus stop. It's working. And so the point is, whether it's a slum, a tech park, or an affluent zone, you can make change. This is in Whitefield nearby. This is actually an open toilet. There's a slum at the back where people who use the toilet. That's a wine shop. This is in the Jagriti Theatre. It's crazy. So some people from Whitefield said, let's fix it. So they fixed it. But what happened? People still threw garbage. You cannot fix a place by just painting it. You have to solve the underlying problem. So on day 2, 5 people went to all the houses and said, from tomorrow we'll make a new system where you don't need to put your garbage on the ground. See what happened. What is interesting is that all the people, the slum dwellers, the wine shop owner, the Jagriti people, the people in apartments got together to solve a common problem. They had never spoken to each other before. They used to complain to each other about each other before. When the community comes together to fix a common problem, it is no longer the tragedy of the commons. This is a victory of the commons. And this particular project has spurred many, many more projects in Whitefield. Now look closely. This is actually urine outside a wine shop. Indian men need to urinate, and let's accept that. Let's not get emotional about it. Can we make them urinate in a dignified way and rescue the public space? So this is a wine shop. There's urine outside. The wine shop owner couldn't be bothered. It created an innovation where someone said, let's create a dignified way for men to urinate and rescue our public space. It resulted in something called the Wonder Loo, which is an open-air urinal, a private space where men urinate and the rest of the wall gets rescued. Now, who did all these projects? Look closely. There are senior citizens. That lady is in her 70s. She's holding a crowbar. There are retired army officers, there are slum children, there's a wine shop owner. They all came together and did this project. There was no contract labor at all. It was all done entirely by citizens. And that evening, people came in their car to buy their liquor and they used the restroom in the open. Everybody is happy. So everybody, all the stakeholders in that spot eventually got what they wanted. And even though they have hugely opposing ideologies, they're getting along. And that's the big message out here. So what do you think? Is there any hope? Yeah, that's good. Over 400 such spots have been fixed, but what's more interesting is 90% have survived, and that's an excellent survival rate for problems that were so chronic no one even knew how to start solving them. But how does it all work? And that's what I'm here to tell you. It's not about going and painting a wall. There is much more to it than that. And the most important thing is this. Kaam chalu muh band. Okay, only work, no talk. Bhai mujhko, kelsa ajko. It's as simple as that. In India, we talk too much. We refuse to listen. But if you decide to go and do and don't talk, incredible things can be achieved. Don't lecture, don't moralize, don't create awareness drives, don't tell people what to do. Don't act condescending and say, I know the solution to your problem, because it might not even be your problem at all. If you take the lead, others will follow. Some of you may have been on protests and dharnas. When you go on a protest, some people join you, some people ignore you. It's the same thing with good work. If you go into disruptive, positive anarchy, some will follow you, some will ignore you, but nobody will stop you. So the only person stopping you from going out and doing good is yourself. Don't blame anybody else for stopping you. Don't expect credit. Don't expect applause. Stay anonymous. Don't take anybody's money. Use your own, whatever your means are. If a single person does something within his own means, you'll be surprised how many other people join you. The moment you take money, you're almost losing your independence. Gandhiji famously said, be the change you want to see. There's a slight problem with that, with due respect to Gandhiji. If the situation is hopeless, you first need to see the change that you want to be, to believe that you can even make the change. And that's where Facebook has been fantastic. Every before-after photograph goes on Facebook. People say, wow, it's possible, let me try it. Creating belief that our pathetic civic situation can improve is the biggest lesson that the Ugly Indian movement has learned. Focus on results, not on who is doing it, how it's being done. If you can deliver a before-after photograph, you're good. If not, and the Facebook is a very brutal decider of whether the project was good or not. There are many myths about social movements which have got broken. Volunteers are the easiest to get. Bangalore has got thousands of people who come out on weekends and work. These are not social activists. These are people who got regular jobs to take time out to work. Money is no problem at all. Many of the projects which were shown cost less than 3,000 rupees or 60 US dollars. If 10 people get together, put 300 rupees each, you can fix a spot. It's cheaper than going out for dinner or having coffee in one of Bangalore's upscale restaurants. And the best part, you can make a dramatic change without asking anybody else for help. A lot of people are worried about the government. The government loves it if the citizens engage. Just paying taxes and voting is not enough. If you come out and work, the government loves it. The Bangalore and the BBMP has taken the first step in entering partnerships with citizen movements. It is unprecedented in India, and we are hopeful that other cities take note that when the collective energies of the government, employees, and the citizens are put on the common cause, which is improving the city, dramatic change can happen. We spend too much time fighting with the government. That should stop. India is truly rising. What began in Bangalore in Church Street 4 years ago quickly spread, and now there are literally 20 to 30 teams in Bangalore operational. All their work is on Facebook, and slowly across India, there are 30 to 40 cities, Kanpur, Agra, Chennai, just name the city, people are coming out. And you know the best part? None of them know each other, nobody talks to each other. The only thing that counts is results. So wherever you are, go out and do something, post it to Ugly Indian. If your work comes on Ugly Indian, you become famous on your street, other people join you. These are random photos sent by people, Kanpur, Amritsar, Agra, Chennai. Everybody's trying to copy, emulate what's happening elsewhere. Simple message. If you want to change the world, start with your own street. If you want your street to change, you should do it. If you wait for somebody else to do it, it may never happen. And the choice is yours. A question that is often asked, why are Ugly Indians anonymous? So far, I've revealed my gender because of my tone of voice and the language that I speak in, which I'm proficient in. But you don't know what I speak at home. You don't know my age. You don't know my religion. You don't know my caste. You don't know my political views. You don't know whether I wear a ponytail or I have a tattoo. The problem with India is we make judgments on people and not on the work they do. And the reason the Ugly Indian has worked is that the focus is only on results, not who did it, why are they doing it, what are their motivations. Anonymity allows a lot of people to come and join the fold. So the message here is stop being an Ugly Indian from today, go out and do something.
I decided to play that because we couldn't have said it any better 6 years later. Everything that was said in the last 14 minutes applies today. And what we're going to share with you now is actually the first time we're sharing it. So we had to struggle to put 6 years of work into the next 45 minutes. The biggest lesson of the ugly Indian was that if you go out and do something good and focus only on that, the rest of the world will conspire to support you. So now we're going to look at what we can learn from the ugly Indian. And probably the biggest thing that happened once the TED talk took place, it got hugely viral. It obviously struck a chord. The Swachh Bharat campaign of the government of India was launched after that TED talk. And very soon after Swachh Bharat became mainstream, this is what happened. The Prime Minister tweeted about that TED talk. You can imagine what happened. Amitabh Bachchan began coming on television regularly to have live sessions with masked people while spot fixing went on in Bangalore to a global audience. Fast Company decided to rate the ugly Indian as number 7 in the 10 most innovative companies in India, which also included the Mangalyaan mission and Fresh Desk. Interestingly, ugly Indian is not even a company, but it got rated as an innovative company. The ultimate tribute, Amar Chitra Katha, had a Swachh Bharat edition and had an entire chapter on the ugly Indian. Anand Mahindra believed that the ugly Indian requires the Bharat Ratna, and it's a solution to India's urban nightmares. Anand Mahindra has never spoken to anyone at the ugly Indian. And professors from Cornell University, US, brought out a book on civic ecology, which is all about movements across the world. And they dedicated an entire chapter to the ugly Indian. So things really began to happen once a volunteer spoke on the TED Talk. And that's when a few core volunteers got together and said, gosh, this is a seriously powerful idea. We need to do justice to it. So a few people decided to actually quit their jobs and said, let's do this formally. And a trust was set up, and the trust was called India Rising. And the reason a trust had to be set up was if you want to grow, you need to raise money, you need to have expenses, hire a team, have agreements. But the conditions under which the trust came were very simple. The trust will stay anonymous. This is the first time probably that the trust name is being mentioned publicly. And the name of the trust will never come out. And what the trust will do is back the citizen ugly Indian movement. And when you're trying to scale something, an idea, from something as an idea to something that works, you need a defining mission. And the mission was very simple, to achieve clean streets in urban India. If you did a survey today of people on this conversation or in the government and ask them, what are the biggest problems facing Bangalore? You'll often find the answer, garbage problem. But if you take a person into a room one-on-one and say, please define the garbage problem, you get different answers. For some, it is about solid waste management. For some, it's about using less or no plastic. For some, it is public health. For some, it is traffic is affected by garbage. Lots of answers, but nobody ever says we just want a clean street. It is such a simple mission, but an extremely difficult one to achieve. So when you have a simple mission, you need to break it down. And so this graphic actually defines the entire work of the ugly Indian. It's full of acronyms, you may not understand it, but what is a clean street? Can we define it? And so this is a wall or a vertical surface, and this is a horizontal surface. And we have got just 4 acronyms. And the first acronym is NGOG, which means no garbage on ground. That's it. NPIP, no peeing in public. So we don't want to see garbage or urine on our streets. That's it. That's what we want. If you look at the vertical, NPOP, no posters on public property. NTOT, no trash on trees. If you achieve these 4 goals, you have a clean street. If you cannot define what you want, you can never solve it. If you cannot measure what you want, you can never solve it. What's interesting about these 4 mantras is they all pertain to human behavior. This is not about infrastructure. This is about preventing ugly Indians from disrespecting a public place. So how do you do it? So I'm going to run you through how for each of these 4 mantras, a template was created, starting with NGOG. Look at this closely. This is a street with garbage. Let's not worry about whether it is debris, construction debris, what it is. How do we fix this? This is actually in a very affluent part of town in Sanjay Nagar, where many justices live, many senior scientists live. It is opposite the ISRO campus, who had just launched the Mangalyaan, and yet this had persisted for many years. So a quick case study of how a typical such spot was fixed. This had all the possible complications you can think of, from legal issues to jurisdiction issues, etc. This is the vision of what was required. We wanted to change it from here to here. Very simple. How do you do it? At 7 o'clock in the morning, it looked like this. At 7:30, a few volunteers and a few skilled workers plunged in. A WhatsApp photo was sent to people nearby, said, come and join. The health inspector of BBMP came and joined. Normally, health inspectors do not, they're supervisors, but we always say come and work. There are senior people from BBMP here who came and worked with the public. There are residents here. It's 9 o'clock. The place has already changed. 9:15. By 10 o'clock, you can see the impact. It's been painted. Somebody has a plan. Everyone just comes and works. At 10:15, Rangoli begins. One of the ladies out here is the elected representative who comes as a member of the public. And at 10:30, the BBMP commissioner who happens to live nearby is going to office. He stops. When he sees the ugly Indian working, he just says, give me a pair of gloves, let me work. We are extremely proud of having changed the culture of the city, is to come and work and not talk. So the BBMP commissioner comes and works for half an hour. And at 11 o'clock, there's the customary group photo where everyone who has a stake, there are BBMP folks here, there's the residents here, there are garbage workers, they all are able to sit without holding their nose on the same place. 11:30, the next, only if you work can you be in the photo. No ugly Indian volunteer is in this photo. It's very important that all the stakeholders feel that they have contributed. And you think it's all over at 11:30, it's not. Till 4 o'clock, people volunteer to sit. So you have created seating, which means if there is seating, people will sit. You change the use of the place. There was no street light there. By the evening, the street light was fixed. 9 p.m., the place was clean. It has never been so clean at 9 p.m. in the last decade. Till 11:30 p.m., people volunteer to sit, just sit and chat. The health inspector, some volunteers, and 7 o'clock the next morning, it is clean. That was the aim, to create a 24-hour clean cycle. And you know what? Once you create something like this, everybody had a stake in retaining it. And this place survived very well. This was one example. But of course, cynics will say, what's the use? People will throw garbage somewhere else. There are cynics everywhere. So we went to a nearby spot, which was similar. Again, in Sanjay Nagar, whenever there's garbage, there's urine. Unbelievable how filthy this was. Again, the commissioner joined us, BBMP staff joined us, and within a few hours, it got transformed. So this is the model for NGOG. Can we take it from filth to no garbage on ground? And the simple answer we came to was, yes, we can. Now, what do we do with this knowledge? This took several years to perfect. It's obviously not straightforward, but how do we scale this? Bangalore has 198 wards. How do we take NGOG to 198 wards? So we said, let's start with one ward. So we started with Bangalore ward for many reasons, but one being that we had a lot of active volunteers. We had excellent elected representatives at the ward and at the assembly level who were supporting us. We just picked it. And we discovered that in Bangalore, there are about 15 to 16 what are called black spots in the year 2014, those of you remember. We began fixing them, and very soon they were all almost fixed. It was extremely easy once you took a team and said, we are fixing one ward, let's just do it. This is what happened after that. I'll show you a few pictures of what got fixed in Bangalore. I'm talking about 2016. This was a typical site in Bangalore, a huge open plot, debris, garbage, cows, unbelievable. Look closely at the picture and see how this got transformed. This is the real picture taken about 3 weeks ago. I go back to the old one, desolate, dark, stinking, dangerous. It's become so incredibly green, it's unbelievable. It's actually become a garden. Here's a close-up. You cannot believe it was the same spot. So once the spot was rescued, the elected representatives came in, and it has now become the Ajja Ajji Park, or a park for senior citizens. The first time in Bangalore, a pedestrianized area. One more example. This was the Bangalore flyover. People used to basically throw garbage. Cows were used to sit here, urination. This is near the embassy golf links. This is what was done below by volunteers in 2016. It remained clean for 2 years, and later on, it has now become a skating rink. The first skating rink under a flyover probably anywhere in India. This is the typical Bangalore flyover, under the flyover area, a big mess. We had worked on it. We had cleaned it for 2 years. And today it's a beautiful garden maintained by the office right opposite. Here is one more open garbage dump where the dog owners of Bangalore said, let's make it a dog park. Why should we have only one dog park in Cubbon Park that we go to only on Sundays? Why can't we have a neighborhood dog park where dog owners can have their dog off leash? This is what happened 3 years ago, a dog park. It became so popular that people from all over Bangalore came. It was open all the time, free. It was a huge success, great media attention. Why am I showing you this? When you go and fix a garbage spot and convert something from NGOG, make it NGOG, suddenly alternate uses emerge. Somebody has to take the first step and handle the filth. But once you make it usable, immediately it gets used. And what we have seen in Bangalore was many of the projects which had a simple aim, I want a clean street, have become brilliant community initiatives. So coming back to the question, can we make Bangalore an NGOG ward? And the answer was yes, we can. I'm talking about 2017. So the belief was built that you have a model that can scale to 198 wards. Let's move to the next problem, NPOP, no posters on public property. Look at this picture. 5 years back, any pillar in Bangalore had this. It was considered normal. Now, what's the problem with this? It's just a poster. But the problem is the moment you allow someone to put their name and phone number on public property and you take no action, it is the beginning of the end of any governance. And look at this person who's put the PG poster. He's put it on top of somebody else. If you look at this, it tells you that for the last 3 years, no one has taken interest in protecting public property. And the problem with this is it has a cascading effect. We have studied this. You allow posters, next you get garbage, then you get urine, then you get antisocial elements. So there's huge amount of negative cascading. On the contrary, if you fix this, there is positive cascading. So a humble poster repellent campaign is much more than aesthetics. It is about reversing the trend in degeneration. So I'll show you how we figured this out. I mean, this is a brilliant photo. It's got about 10 layers of posters. It shows you from how many years no one has tried to clean it. You see the rest of the place, it's every possible evil is here. Who will ever go here in this beautiful, in a city where land is at a premium, we waste huge amounts of land by allowing the poster to come. So this is what we tried to do. It's not that people haven't tried. Look at this pillar. Someone has tried a Vijayanagara pillar painting. Lots of efforts have been made, but they have not worked. People do not respect paintings and art apparently. So here is what was tried. Look at this picture carefully. The pillar is full of posters. There's a zinc sheet here, which is quite clean. Look at the next picture. The pillars are painted. The poster guys came back. They spared the pillars. They put it on the zinc sheets. That was a proof that if you do something right, it works. Don't waste your time analyzing why it worked. It worked. We tried this on Indiranagar metro station, a simple design, and see what happened. The fellows who put posters put it only on this pipe, not on the poster. So we learned that if you make a standardized design which looks official and importantly has no text, it doesn't say don't put posters. It just makes it look nice. It works. And the final theory was that leave no gap. Because when we left a gap, we discovered sometimes the people who put posters would squeeze their poster between the elements of your design. What we also learned was we are defeating the poster guys. We're not trying to do public art. A poster guy doesn't carry a ladder. He can maximum go up to 8 feet if he stretches his hand. So the only place you want to protect is from 2 feet to 8 feet in a pillar. You don't need to worry about the top. This was a model that began to work, and you've probably seen this across Bangalore, these designs. What's very 2-3 points about this design. One is there's no text, very important. The moment you write something on the wall, you're also defacing it. How can you prevent somebody else from doing the same? These colors are very carefully chosen. You don't want to be aligned with any political, social, ethnic, or religious group. Neither do you want to offend anyone. It also looks nice and it looks official, and so people are not sure that they should mess with it. And fourthly, if you put your poster on this, it gets lost. It's visually vanquished. And so a lot of thought has gone into it. Who has done this? If you look at this picture closely, you may recognize one of the gentlemen out here. He's the elected representative of Gandhinagar. This is the Anand Rao Circle. The public will come and do it. It's not done by painters. First-time painters can do it. And when you involve the political establishment, you can be sure that anyone in the political establishment will not put political posters too. So it is tactical to involve people. But I want to share one example of 2015. We painted the Anand Rao Circle, and somebody from Uber came and put this poster because he did not know that this is not allowed in Bangalore anymore. This was posted on the Ugly Indian Facebook page. There was huge backlash. This is what happened. That evening, the Uber South India head actually went, cleaned the posters himself and posted a picture on the Ugly Indian Facebook saying, I have cleaned it, it will not happen again. And that's when we knew that when public pressure prevails, nobody will actually mess up public space. And so coming back to NPOP, no poster on pillar. Yes, we can. We have found the model. Let's move on. No trash on trees. In Bangalore, we talk a lot about our trees, but what about the trees that we already have? All of you have seen this. It's such a common sight. We trash our trees. And you know why we do it? Because when we planted these trees 20 years ago, we put metallic tree guards, and today nobody knows how to remove them. You need a specialized cutter to do it, and no one owns one. And so it persists, it chokes the trees. It is such a simple thing to do to free the tree. So this is what we did. We invested in a battery-operated cutter. Just look at this tree, how it has been freed after 15 years. It can breathe again. So the view was we have tens of thousands of trees being choked in front of us. Let's just go and save them. We started with Bangalore again. We got everybody involved. We saved most of the trees of the Bangalore ward. The special commissioner BBMP loved the idea. He said, I want to save a tree near my house. And then the commissioner BBMP said, let's do it across Bangalore. And we signed an agreement with the forest department that we are the custodian of all the trees in terms of saving them from human damage. So we moved from an idea to something official very fast. So NTOT, yes, we can. And coming to the fourth one, NPIP, urination in public. It's one of the most disgusting behaviors to most of us, but how do we stop it? This is the street solution. You line up a pair of chappals. You see this across Bangalore. It works sometimes, but it's not efficient enough. If a man wants to urinate, he will go around the corner, and it looks pretty ugly anyway. And somebody has urinated here, you can see. So if it's never cleaned, it's not going to work. So what does the government do? They put urinals. This is a classic example of Brigade Road, where you have these two highly expensive toilets and the gentleman is going in the middle and urinating in the open. So something about these toilets is not working. So this is what a designer came up with, a free male urinal. This is an actual photograph, again in Bangalore. I won't tell you what it looks like inside, but essentially if you walk by, you see this, there is no signage, but people know that this is a clean urinal. Men go and use it. It's free for use. We have employed a person to clean it. It has worked for 15 months. So all the cynics who said it will not work, we just say go and use it. Nobody has removed it. It's been highly popular. And we had to close it during the lockdown and people are saying, please open it again. And so we surveyed Bangalore ward. We found 16 places where there's open urination. And we began a program to methodically eliminate either through spot fixing or to providing a service. So NPIP, yes, we can. Now, this is when things began to change. With the arrival of Swachh Bharat, the Swachh Survekshan surveys began, which means Bangalore was measured along with 4,000 other cities. And a word called visual cleanliness, which is a technical term, was something on which every city was rated. This was great because so far no one had measured cleanliness. They had only measured things like tonnage of garbage, how much is segregated, macro data. But nobody measures, is my street clean? And you know what? We had done precisely that for 5 years. And we figured that what we are doing is exactly how our city is going to be measured. And so the BBMP for the first year had to figure out how to present Bangalore to the folks in Delhi. And we spoke to them and said, we've got hundreds of pictures of examples of clean streets. You want to share it to Delhi? They said, yes. We had 400 photos. I've picked just 10 of them here, but all the photos I'm going to show you were projects done informally, which became part of Bangalore's formal application for Swachh Sarvekshan to show community and government action. I'm just going to run through them because of paucity of time. This is outside ISRO Indiranagar. This is Indira Canteen Shantala Nagar. This is Vibhutipura. This is Ijipura. This is Whitefield. This is Madiwala. This is Indiranagar. This is Mangamanpalya. This is Bangalore Football Stadium. This is Banshankari. The whole city was covered. This is the famous Wind Tunnel Road, which has got solved. And I'm showing this because this is called the vacant plot problem, which is common in Bangalore. This is a legal problem. There's no footpath. Nobody owns it. So we came up with a solution which now was used a lot in COVID times, and it's called barricading. But we've learned how to legally barricade an illegal plot. It became a standard template. And I'm showing you these photos because the next photo shows you how this was done. It's a huge effort. Here we have 30 people. This is from Orion Mall who came out to work for a day. Each photograph that we showed involved huge efforts. And this was great for BBMP and others because we have to show community involvement, we have to show results. So suddenly the Ugly Indian moved from a curious, guerrilla movement to becoming actually part of the city's scoring system, which means the methods that had worked here would be relevant for the city. So we came and asked a very audacious question. What does it take to fix Bangalore in terms of clean streets? How do you make Bangalore streets clean? And the answer is a number. What does it cost? Finally, it comes down to what does it cost? Maybe all of you can just pause for a minute and think, if I asked you, what does it cost to achieve clean streets in Bangalore? What number you would come up with? But the number we came up with was 15 crores. It was an arrogant number. And it was the back of the envelope, but it worked like this. We actually did a survey and figured out there are 2,000 garbage spots big, 10,000 garbage spots small, 1,000 pillars, 2,000 walls, so many trees. And if you added it all up using an average cost of 15 to 20,000 rupees maximum per unit, you would actually need to spend 15 crores over 3 years to do it. And we told people, this is what we can do. We have a team. If you provide 15 crores of materials, not money, because all the effort is from people, it can be solved. And we made this presentation to the BBMP commissioner, to various companies, to various donors, and everybody said, are you sure? That's it? He said, yes, give us a try. So sometimes you got to be audacious and think like that. So we came up with what we call the NGOG moonshot. Okay, that we have done 400 spot fixes in 5 years, but that's not going to take us anywhere. How do we get the city fixed? Can we get each ward team to fix one spot in a day? Bangalore has 200 wards, and one day we can fix 200 spots. Can we fix 2 spots in a week? If you want to fix 400 more, it can run in a week. And so we began a very interesting training program with BBMP. So all the 25,000 workers in solid waste management BBMP were called through the leaders, and we said something very simple. Tomorrow when you clean your garbage spot, do one thing more, put Rangoli. It requires no training. I think all of us in the South know the implication of Rangoli, what it means. To do Rangoli, you have to wash the street. So you don't have to tell anyone you have to wash the street. You cannot do Rangoli unless it's clean. More than 80% of BBMP Paura Karmikas are female. They're brilliant at Rangoli. They never get a chance to show their skills other than during Habbas. Public can join with them. So this is what happened. We did one example, and the next day, it was Rajotsava time. We launched the Rajotsavi Rangola Habba through BBMP. See what happened. Every ward, people went out and did Rangolis, but more importantly, they sent a photograph with a timestamp. So very indirectly, we had created a reporting culture and pride in doing their work, which was not there till then. It was very simple. It cost no money. You cannot train a Paura Karmika to do Rangoli. She does it much better than all of us put together. And so we used their skills and created pride. The next thing we did was we conducted a formal training. We gave out spot fixing kits. We trained all the health inspectors on how to do it. And importantly, we insisted that the health inspector and the Paura Karmika all come and work. This leveling of the playing field is very crucial. The media loved it, that the Ugly Indian is training the BBMP staff in aesthetics. And this is what happened. They fixed 200 spots in 4 days. It required each ward to fix one spot. And once they learned it, they did some more. 400 spots were fixed in 10 days. Just think about it. As a group, as a volunteer movement, we had fixed 400 spots in 4 years. When the system embraces your ideology and your methods, they can do magic. And so the scaling of NGOG had begun. This is one example of a typical spot in Nagwara. The poor Paura Karmikas have to clean this every day. But the supervisor said, I'll show you something different today. He showed off how he painted. He invited them to paint. Look at the joy on her face. It's such fun. And at the end of it, everybody's part of the group photo, the Paura Karmikas and the public. This became standard culture in BBMP. Do some work, take a before after, send a timestamp photo. This helped tremendously in managing the entire city's issues. What was interesting was the Economic Times carried this. Economic Times don't talk about garbage. And they said, what Ugly Indian has done, it has changed mindsets from simply cleaning to actually solving a problem. The major outcome of this was it created a sense of hope. It created a reporting culture. It created competition among wards. And most importantly, the relationship between the citizen and the Paura Karmika is normally not very friendly. You're always complaining that she's not come or not done her work. But when you see your street Paura Karmika doing Rangoli, you go and join her. The Paura Karmikas were overwhelmed that the public was actually participating, appreciating them for something they really did. So this little exercise of training and engaging the entire 25,000 BBMP workforce was probably one of the most satisfying outcomes of the last couple of years. So the problem now is, how do we equip each ward team to achieve NGOG? You need a standard operating procedure. If anything has to work in government, it has to be standardized. So we're very proud of this document. It's a Swachh Survekshan document. It's got our trust name. And it basically says, how do you look at a spot and how do you fix it? See, most people look at a spot and say, we don't know what to do. We have taken away that problem. We have analyzed every spot and told you how to do it. Whether it's got a wall, no wall. I'll show you a few pictures. If you have a spot, a dirty wall with footpath, this is what you do. You clean it, you beautify it, and you guard it. Now, cleaning and guarding are part of BBMP core competence. They have marshals to guard. They have the ability to clean. They don't have the ability to beautify. How do you beautify? We have given you the list of materials, the costs, 6,000 rupees. So it becomes so clear that you have no excuse not to do it anymore. You have to only worry about, where do I get the money from? Do I take it from BBMP? Do I source it privately? Dirty wall, no footpath. Vacant plot with footpath. Vacant plot with trees. Every possible case. Bestcom transformer on footpath. Electrical box, no footpath. And if these solutions are not suitable, please inform head office. So officially through BBMP, a system was created, and believe me, it is working. Even as of last week, several spots were fixed. And it's all because people have embraced the idea. They don't think anymore. They know what to do. Let's move to the next moonshot. We've done lots of moonshots, and this is the NPOP moonshot. If Bangalore has 2,000 pillars, how can they all be clean and poster free? There's no point just cleaning 10 or 15. This is a picture some of you may remember when we had hoardings in Bangalore. This is Bangalore Palace entrance. In 2015, we had the Invest Karnataka conference, where the entire city of Bangalore was cleaned up, I believe, for 40 crores or a huge sum of money. We're showing off our city to the world. But this is the entrance to the conference hall, and it belongs to the railways. And so BBMP doesn't have the jurisdiction to go and do anything. So we offered to the BBMP, give us 2 days, we'll make your entrance to this beautiful. Look at the picture closely, see how it was transformed. This is Palace again. It was transformed using Karnataka Royal Mysore colors. We used the Ganda Berunda. We matched it to the advertising up on top about Karnataka. It was beautiful. It happened in 2 days. And this single act just changed the whole outlook of the government towards changing public spaces. And so we began a project called Project UFO, where the map that you're seeing is a map of all the flyovers, underpasses, and metro pillars of Bangalore. It didn't exist before that because each is handled by a different government agency. We made this map and we said, we're now going to take each flyover and rescue the pillars. And that's what began. Most of you have seen these places. This is Ibalur, Hebbal, Sarjapur, HSR, the famous Silk Board, Hennur, Kyarpuram Tin Factory, Mahadevpura. Not only the pillars, the side walls were also transformed. These are all standardized, all done by volunteers. This is Belandur. 1,200 pillars of 34 flyovers were reclaimed. It was the world's biggest government citizen partnership anywhere. And it all happened in 2 years, silently, quietly, as a collaboration between the government and citizens. So now that NPOP was achieved for flyovers, let's go to the metro. All of you have seen this. This is how Banashankari station used to look. Unbelievable 3 years ago. This is how it looks now. This is MG Road, Kanakpura Road, Saraki, Banashankari, Indiranagar Metro Station, JP Nagar, the entrance to Bangalore from Mysore at BHEL. And I like the next photo very much. That's the MD of BMRCL who came and worked with us. The next MD also came and worked with us. The culture of coming and working is something we're extremely proud of. Whatever the organization, they know. If the Ugly Indian is involved, they will never come to your office. They will start work, and it is good to go and join them because then you're part of the solution. 400 pillars and 6 stations were transformed. It's a unique partnership. Nowhere else that we can tell in the world has been such an extensive partnership of citizens and government to transform a public asset. Some people ask, why doesn't the metro do it themselves? But when the metro is building out its mobility platform, its network, their focus is to get things right, to move the trains. They cannot, they say, make a priority of cleaning what's below the tracks. In fact, every government agency, you speak to the railways, they'll say, we're concerned about our trains, about our tracks, not what is below the underbridge. You speak to the army, they say, we want to keep our premises clean, we can't care about the civilians outside. Everybody worries about their internal issue, not the outside. Bangalore is full of no man's lands, or what we call LOCs and LACs, between parastatal, central government and others. And that is where we fill the gaps. Now that NPOP was achieved for metro pillars, let's go to underpasses. Look at this picture. Do you remember? This is how Bangalore used to look 4 years ago. This is Kadrenahalli. It was absolutely normal for an underpass to be a mess. I don't think you can find a single underpass like this now. What did we do? We collaborated with the BBMP and said, please go ahead and paint blue and white, which is the Indian Road Congress traffic safety standards. But if you see what we have done, we have taken charge of the lower 8 feet. So they paint vertical stripes on top and we paint a design below. And if you see this closely, there are repeated simple designs. If you look closely, you'll see Ambari. You'll see the Ganda Berunda. We've taken things that evoke pride in Karnataka, but kept it very simple. This one is, there's actually an underpass named after G.R. Vishwanath. Please Google it and find out which one it is. So we've got a cricket theme. And this is the underpass outside Indian Institute of Science. It's got a science theme. But if you look very closely, there is no text, there is no art. And why is that? Because road safety is prominent. You do not want somebody driving down an underpass to read what's on the wall. It should be predictable, it should be standardized. But what's also important is within 6 months, whatever you do will get dirty, dusty, polluted. How do we make sure it lasts for 5 years? We're very proud to say that the designs we did 3 years back are still there because all it takes is to send a bunch of painters next year who will repaint because they're simple geometric shapes. You don't need the artist to go back. By using simple geometry, you can assure longevity of your solutions. And so who did all this? This is the Makery Circle tunnel. The picture on the top is how it used to look for many years. It was a hopeless situation. We haven't seen a poster here in 3 years. Who are all these people? We don't know. We just post on Facebook, come and join, and they show up. This is Windsor Manor. That's our former mayor, Gangambike ma'am. She was driving by, she saw the work, she got down, she knew she had to work, she joined us. It's incredible the number of senior IAS officers, bureaucrats, MLAs, corporators, MPs, they all show up and they all come and work. It's very hard for me to choose just 3 pictures, but just to show you, thousands and thousands of Bangaloreans have been involved in achieving these changes. So we achieved NPOP for underpasses. So what next? If you look back at the map, there are about 100 junctions in Bangalore, metro pillars, underpasses. We just said, let's take them all on, but it's not practical to take them all on. And at some point you have to start thinking beyond, just doing it through volunteers. But we said, let's try a moonshot. This moonshot, some of you may remember. It seems a long time ago, but April 19th was the Lok Sabha elections. And this is the challenge we put out on our Facebook page. Bangalore has 2,000 pillars. Guess how many pillars have political posters on it? This was the NPOP challenge. And the options were less than 20, less than 250, less than 500 or 1,000. Just think, what would you guess? And most people guessed the answer is 500 or 1,000. The belief was Bangalore is full of political posters. We knew it wasn't the case, but sometimes it takes a long time to change a public perception. You may clean 1,500 pillars, but if people see 5 dirty pillars, we say the place is dirty. Cleanliness is a 100% business. If you're 95% clean, people will notice the 5%. So we had this challenge. And on the day before the Lok Sabha elections, this is what we put out. This is a post from Facebook. Unbelievable. No political posters on any of the pillars. And what's more, here is the proof. We actually put out 2,200 photographs taken over 2 days by a team of volunteers. This is in great detail. It's on our Facebook page. But we proved that there was not a single political poster on any pillar, which is the most high stress point for poster work the day before elections. The media, of course, likes it. It said the ugly Indian is watching. And we said, now that we've proved that 2,000 pillars can be clean, let's set up a maintenance system to ensure it's that way. And believe me, it is still clean. Bangalore is one of the few cities in India where you do not see posters on pillars. Yes, there is a high court ban, but that is often not enough. You need public pressure. We're moving to the second part of our presentation. We just got about 10 minutes left because the reason we gave you this background was all this time we had worked as volunteers, but it comes to a point where you say, why don't we do this formally? Bangalore has so much talent, creative talent, engineering talent. We do solutions for the world. Why can't we harness Bangalore's talent for our own city? And we realized there is no enabling environment for that. So we approached the BBAP and said, can we formally become your partner to invite companies to adopt flyovers? And the poster you're seeing is something we designed, the Adopt a Flyover scheme. And the flyover at Veeranapalya, which is opposite Manyata Tech Park. We are grateful. We want to place on record, L&T Technology said, not only will we adopt it, we will request the Ugly Indian to join us and partner and raise the bar. Can we make such a brilliant job done under one flyover that everybody will want to emulate it? What could be better than that you try and emulate something really good? So this is how it looked unbelievably 3 years ago, opposite Manyata Tech Park. We took it for granted. I'll show you some pictures of how this was transformed. Simple it looks, but it's transformational. This worked over a year, it remained clean, and then the L&T said, can you do something even better? Let's put in a theme and make it a beautiful public space. So we chose the theme of Karnataka wildlife. And just see what was done. This is how it used to look before we went in. This is how it looks now. This is how it looked 6 months back. It looks the same. This is a public access space in Bangalore themed on wildlife. It's very difficult to explain it through pictures, but I'm sure most people who have been to North Bangalore have seen it. And what it showed was that if you take people seriously, respect them, people come here to take selfies. Nobody litters, nobody urinates, nobody throws garbage. There's huge community support. And this is in Nagwara, which is an area that is quite crowded, densely populated, not the cleanest of places. This has become the pride of the community. And so the Adopt a Flyover scheme worked. Today we have 4 other companies saying, why don't we do this outside our tech park? And our job as the ugly Indian is to say, please do it. We want to become redundant. Why should citizens do this in their spare time? Why don't our companies and those who have a stake in Bangalore partner with the government to do it? It just required someone to start it off. The other big success story we have to mention is national highways. You know, the national highways snakes through Bangalore, the road to the airport, the road to Electronic City, the elevated corridor to Tumkur. Now, if you're in the BBMP, you have no locus standi to go and clean below that. So if you or I throw garbage under the Electronic City flyover, it will remain there till somebody else cleans it. And the NHAI is not as concerned about what lies below the road as maintaining the road. And so it's not a priority for them. So we went to the national highway and said, the airport road is the pride of Bangalore. The air show is coming. Can we please give us a chance to do something with it? The NHAI comes under the Ministry of Roads, under Mr. Nitin Gadkari. They have never had such a proposal before that someone would actually come and take up their asset and transform it. We are the first city in India to get official permission. I would like to place on record that the Chief Secretary of Karnataka, Mr. Vijay Bhaskar, actually made a request to the Ministry of Roads saying that there are citizen groups and companies in Bangalore who are willing to do this at no cost to you. And a precedent was set. The pictures you can see are of people transforming these huge pillars. All of you know this place. It's the Bellary Road. It's one of the most visible transformations. During the lockdown, the way to show how Bangalore was empty was to show a picture of the Bellary Road flyover. 105 pillars were transformed. And I want to place on record again how this was done. This photo is nice. It's got members of the National Highways. It's got members of the embassy group who actually sponsored this entire project. It's got the BBMP. And what's interesting is there are no ugly Indians here. All the work was done by professional painting companies because the embassy is a real estate conglomerate. They can do a good job. They know how to paint. And the role of the citizen was to make this happen and to put the design. So we found a way to invite private capital into public spaces by following all the norms and creating a new model for Bangalore. This happened just before the lockdown, but we are confident that, why can't our companies in Bangalore do it? And if we ask them, they say there's no model. We are very proud to say that we've created a model where we are the facilitating agency, where public spaces can be transformed with no money transaction between the government and the private party, purely for the love of improving the city. And this all culminated in something called Adopt a Street. I want you all to think about one thing. If you have a midday meal in a government school and you want to contribute, it's possible to do it. It's possible for companies to support public health, like in COVID. It's possible for us to support education. We don't have any ideological issues when private capital flows into health and education. Why do we then have a problem if private capital has to make my street clean? But the moment I ask someone, will you spend 100 rupees to make a street clean? He will say, no, I'm paying garbage cess. That is the job of the Paura Karika. Why should I do it? And so for some strange reason, because cleanliness of a street is not considered important, we have refused to allow private capital into street cleaning. And our view is a clean street is where it all starts. If your streets are clean, everything else follows. All of you on this conversation who have traveled overseas, or if you have relatives who've been overseas, the first comment they make when they go overseas, it is so clean. It's incredible how we value cleanliness, yet we are unwilling to pay for it. It's a strange anomaly, and that comes from our ugly Indian psychology. As of last month, if you wanted to spend 200 rupees on your own street, there was no formal way of doing it. You could donate something to your Paura Karmika, but you could not formally partner with BBMP to support your street because there would be allegations. There is taxpayer money that is being used. Why should private capital go in? And so in India, we have this very either or. Either the government does it or they abdicate entirely and totally privatize. There is a lot of middle parts that the ugly Indian has found. So the Adopt a Street was simple. We made an MOU. We found out all the departments in BBMP that work on the street, from street lighting to horticulture to forest to solid waste management. And we said, if this is what they do and I want to do a little more, can I do it? Can I augment what the BBMP does, not replace? And we spoke to the lawyers and they said, of course. And then we discovered around the world, this is absolutely common. Whether it's the US, the UK, Australia, advanced economies which are wealthier, who spend a lot more than us, who are far cleaner than us, have no ideological problem with private citizens adopting a street to augment what the government does. And to show we were serious, we said, as a trust, we will adopt 10 streets in Bangalore. And so the commissioner of BBMP was very happy about this. The trust, facilitated by the ugly Indian, we took up 13 kilometers of Bangalore's main roads, MG Road, Brigade Road, Church Street, the pride of Bangalore. We spent so much on making them nice through tender show and other projects, but we have not spent on maintenance. So we said we will demonstrate what private augmented capital maintenance can do. And we did two things, very simple things. The first thing was, Most of you have seen this. Church Street is a brilliant example of what can happen when you do it right. I think 8 or 9 crores was spent on the road. But look at the quality of the dustbins. And this is what happened in a few months. The dustbins got broken. For a year or two, this beautiful street was actually marred by pathetic dustbins. So we did something very simple. We replaced the bins, but more importantly, we hired a team of 2 full-time people to maintain the bins. The BBMP ends their work at 2 o'clock. They work from 7 to 2. If I litter in the street at 2:30 in the afternoon, it remains dirty till the next morning. It's common sense. If you want a street clean, you have to have someone around in the afternoon. And so the BBMP has 200 workers for this ward. They all go home at 2 o'clock. We said we'll put 2 people starting to 2 p.m. till 9 p.m. That little act of investment, a gap filler, made a dramatic change. So we learned that if you invest and put people, not ideas, put people who are paid, accountable to you to fill the gaps, to augment the government system, you can actually do it. But we are a greedy lot, we're audacious. We said, let's try, we have done our moon shot, let's go for a Mars shot. And this is something we did in January where we said, let's be absolutely audacious. How can we transform our city and prove it's possible? Some of you may have heard about this. It was called the Ugly Indian Treasure Hunt. How much trash can you find in Bangalore city center on New Year's Day morning? In MG Road, you'll get prizes if you find trash. We start at 10 a.m. outside Church Street. Can you believe it? On New Year's morning in Bangalore, where all the discussion is about women's safety and chaos, that we are saying if you come at 10 o'clock and 10 to 11 you find trash, we'll give you prizes. It was an absolutely audacious idea. And the question was, how clean are we? Let's not go by what we think, what others tell us, what the media tells us. Let's come and see. And next morning, about 45 people showed up. Citizens, media. I said, this is unbelievable. There's a catch here. How can we not find garbage? And this is what happened. Treasure hunt fails as BBMP plays spoil sport. One of the most sarcastic and funny headlines I've seen in a long time. The streets are actually clean. In only 8 kilograms of waste was found across 4 kilometers by 50 people searching for an hour on January 1st morning. Who was the hero in this? It became the BBMP officer. BBMP officers never become heroes. They're always invisible. But by creating and empowering somebody who's at the junior management level to say, I can do it, it's amazing. And so the treasure hunt was such a huge success. This was a picture taken at Church Street by this girl who was one of the treasure hunters. Spick and span. Let's go back to what we are trying to achieve. No garbage on ground, no peeing in public, no trash on trees, no public posters on public property. If I look at this photo, that's exactly what happened. And after this happened, there were 2 more big events in January. One was the cricket match between India and Australia. One was Republic Day. And we threw challenges, treasure hunts. Come at 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning. If you find trash, I give you a prize. Now just think what this does. It changes the paradigm from, has my Paurakarmika cleaned the street after I littered it, to nobody litters. Or if it is littered, I find a way that it is clean all the time. And the best inspection is to call a challenge and give people prizes for finding litter. I think no city in the world has done this. We did it 4 times in January. And what was nice was health inspectors from other wards said, we also want to be heroes. We can do it. So the moment you challenge a health inspector, can you make a street clean at 7 a.m.? They know what to do. It has never been part of their work. That's it. And they need a little help. And so we're extremely proud of this Mars shot. Because of the COVID lockdown, we could not continue it. But what we feel today is that if people adopt a street, they have to ensure only one thing. Do you have the guts to call a treasure hunt? If you can adopt your own street and say, tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I'll do what it takes to keep it clean at 8 o'clock, everything else falls into place. So plogging became a cool trend around the world. Plogging meant you go and pick up litter. And we said, hello, that's not right. So we launched a hashtag called Unplog India. I will call you for a plogging event and you will find nothing. It was an extremely counterintuitive approach and it happened in the treasure hunts. And so just to rephrase, we're coming to the end of the presentation, Nagesh. I hope I've not overshot time. Just to say what we have tried to achieve was no garbage on ground, no peeing in public, no posters on public property, no trash on trees. Focus on this, and that's what's worked. So we saw what works, and this is what we saw, but a couple of other people also did see. We're very proud of this. You may have remembered this, that last year Bangalore was nominated for something as the World Design Capital. It's a very prestigious award by something called the World Design Organization, where they pick a city to be the World Design Capital, and Bangalore got shortlisted along with the city in Spain. And when the government of Karnataka made its presentation or its application, we're very proud to say that the work of the Ugly Indian was presented as part of City of Bangalore's example of public space design. There could be no better endorsement of the work when the government embraces your work and actually proudly applies for it. Bangalore was the only city from India ever to be nominated. We didn't win, we came second, I guess, but it doesn't matter. The other thing which we have not spoken about at all is social media. This is a picture of Sunil Chetri. I'm trying not to mention names, but sometimes you feel happy when the captain of BFC comes and works with you quietly and then posts it on Twitter. He's the second most followed Twitter sportsman, I think, in India. The social media page Ugly Indian has got 445,000 likes. And just to give a comparison, the Facebook page of the Swachh Bharat mission of Government of India is about half that. A lot of people ask the Ugly Indian, how do you manage your social media? Who's your social media team? What do you do? And the answer is there is no team. There is no one who manages it. All that we do is we post before only action photos, results photos. And it's incredible how people love results. They don't like talk. So social media has been the biggest victory for the Ugly Indian movement because it's the only way of communication. There is no strategy. It is just do good work and post it. And so this is one more thing that has worked. In today's world, if it works on social media, it's working. The Ugly Indian has made cleaning a dirty street desirable, cool, fun, and attracts more people. And so I'm going to spend the last few minutes of this talk with our analysis of what works and why it has worked. And I would be grateful if you all could also think and criticize, question, and maybe give your own suggestions on why you think it has worked. But we're not going to debate whether it has worked. The first thing is this: anonymity works. It is very easy to take credit. It is extremely hard really not to take credit. We are paranoid about it. We believe that's probably the single reason that nobody feels scared to work with us. We work with 3 governments. We work with 9 mayors. We work with every possible political combination, every ideology. Everyone believes that when you're anonymous, you're doing it because you want to do the right thing, not because you have any personal agenda. Kaam chalu, muh band works, not talking works. It's a huge discipline. Only let your actions do the talking. Never speak. We have made an exception today because we felt it's been 5 years, it's worth putting it down, but it will not be done again. Involving all the stakeholders works. When I say all, I mean all. It could be the cow on the street. It could be someone you don't think of too much as an important stakeholder who's not called to a stakeholder meeting. Everybody who uses the public space has to be thought about, and only if you involve them, it works. If even one person on the space doesn't agree with you, it's not going to work. This is crucial, how to define the problem you're trying to solve. I repeat, when you ask people what is the garbage problem, people tie themselves up in knots. But if you just say, all I want is a clean street or something extremely simple, it's like saying I will end hunger or I will end poverty or I will have clean streets in India. The simplicity is crucial. Don't overcomplicate, keep it simple. This is something that most people find fascinating. You should aim for redundancy, which means you should not need to exist tomorrow. Whatever you're doing, do it with the intent that the system gets solved in such a way that someone like you is not required anymore. It's a huge discipline because what it has done today is that there are many wards in Bangalore where there is no need for the Ugly Indian anymore when it comes to NGOG. There are no flyovers in Bangalore anymore which requires the Ugly Indian for NPOP. And the more and more we try to become redundant, the more sustainable and lasting our solutions are. Our whole aim is that we can go back to living our own lives and not do things like cleaning streets and removing posters, because when you do something, you should solve it. It's not about continuously doing it day after day. And so I end with what Anamik said 4 years ago. If you want to change the world, start with your own street. I'm absolutely overwhelmed by what the Rotary Club has done and the photos that we could not see, that the idea is so powerful that they felt that they needed to clean the street before attending this talk. And more importantly, they loved the experience so much that they will do it again. If you cannot fix your own street, you can't fix the world. And it is extremely hard to fix your own street because all the problems of the city all converge always on one street corner. So if you can fix your street, you can fix a ward. Never trivialize the value of fixing your own street. What I hope everybody does after today is ask yourself, what can I do for my street today? Not we, not my group, not my company, but I. Whether I'm 80 years old, whether I'm physically handicapped, whether I'm fit, doesn't matter. There is something you can do. Have you done something today? And the only person stopping you is yourself. We're going to end now, and we'd like to hear from you if you agree that it works and what you could learn from the Ugly Indian. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wish we could stand up and give you an ovation give an ovation to all the Ugly Indian volunteers. Really proud of what you have done to our city and what sort of concept you have brought out. And we are now not surprised why Prime Minister felt it is so relevant that he should share it actually and let people know how citizens can take the ownership of their own surroundings. Thank you so much. We are actually overwhelmed by the possibilities that are in front of us. So our administrator is ready with the photographs. May I request you to please share? This is what we did yesterday as a tribute from our Rotary side. Now have a look at it. So this is just opposite to the Jayanagar bus station, in front of the earlier Puttana theatre. A brand new footpath was filled with debris and all the construction waste. So some of the volunteers from Rotary went there and just cleaned the street and just see what happened, all within 2 hours. So we just removed everything. And so even before we completed the job, people started walking on it. Otherwise, they were walking on the road. Next photo, please. And once we washed it and hosed it, we have this footpath. And if you now go there, you will see most of the people using this, and we are so happy we could experience it firsthand, the power of spot fixing. And as our environment chair, Prakash Belwadi said, this is truly going to be very high on our priority. So while on it, I'll also request Mr. Prakash Belwadi to say a few words or give his remarks. I will request him to unmute. Yeah, yes.
Thank you, Nagesh. When Nagesh gave me the idea that we should try and get the Ugly Indian to actually come and participate in our webinar series, I said we'll try and make some effort, and we took some help from our friends, and actually architect Naresh Narasimhan helped us to reach the Ugly Indian. And one of the first things we were told by the Ugly Indian volunteer was that, we will not have any affiliation with ideology, with a political party. And, we hear this idea from the Bhagavad Gita of Nispruha Karma, this self-effacing, selfless kind of service. I feel truly overwhelmed and so privileged that, we have been chosen, and that we can get to talk to the Ugly Indian after 6 years. It's such a privilege. And, we use the word overwhelming very easily, but I am truly overwhelmed by this talk and the pictures that have been shared. And here is a promise. I don't know how we can achieve this. What we'll do from Rotary is that there are more than 100 Rotary clubs in our Rotary district. The Rotary district is Bangalore, urban and rural. It's Mandya, it is Kolar, Chikballapur, Tumkur, and a little part of Andhra Pradesh too. It's the Rotary district is not a revenue district. It's very big. And we have just our DG, the district governor, Nagendra Prasad, has just initiated an idea, because Rotary International has now made environment one of the 7th area of focus, one of its 7 areas of focus. And our DG has asked every Rotary club to have a person to represent environment at the club level. And we will soon have a meeting, a conference of all the newly appointed or nominated directors of environment at each club. And we will request the Ugly Indian to lend their expertise and volunteers to do a workshop for us, so that we promise to fix at least one spot through Rotary Club every week from here on forever, if possible. Actually, I'm just so moved by this thing of owning a city, as yours, and the Ugly Indian has shown us the way. And I think really that's all I want to say. This is my takeaway from it. There's an extraordinary thing that the Ugly Indian has achieved. And as a Bangalorean, I'm truly proud that I live in a city that can create such an inspiration. Thank you, Nagesh.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Wow.
Ugly.
Thank you for the inspiration from your side also, sir. It's truly so amazing. We have a lot of questions. We have little time. I'll quickly go one by one. Simar Kohli says, I would like to collaborate. Lots of people who would like to know how to do it. Over to you, Anamik Nagrik.
So the entire idea here is that the Ugly Indian is not an organization that collaborates, it's an idea. And I just want to go back to the slides you showed of what the Rotary folks did before this talk. They actually went and did something which was extremely not rocket science, right? If you start treating the footpath like your private property, you know what to do. The moment we remove that in our mind that this is private and that is public, it's not difficult at all. The challenge is to make that leap in your mind. And if I were to ask Nagesh what was achieved in that footpath in Jayanagar, were you trying to solve the garbage problem? Were you trying to solve the pedestrian problem, the traffic problem, the pride problem, your personal pride issue of doing something? Don't get stuck in what you are trying to do. You are just basically taking a footpath outside your property and saying, let me do what I do best at home. So what we encourage people, we have hundreds of emails that come in every day. We say, what have you done today? It's a real question. The moment you dirty your hands, then you realize you don't need anyone to help you. This is not difficult. If it's complicated, of course. And the other thing is we should never trivialize these problems. If a problem has persisted for long, there is some fundamental problem. But if you have a tree outside your house and someone has littered it, it takes 2 minutes to go and pick it up. You don't need coaching or training or a workshop for that. And so we are a bit hesitant to say we will tell you what to do, because then we have lost the battle. If you yourself don't do it, we can help you for specialized things. But we encourage people to think, what can I do? Small example, most people in upper middle class homes and in companies have housekeeping at home. An average family would spend maybe 1,000 rupees a month to pay someone to look after their property. If you ask the same person, why don't you put 1% of that, 10 rupees to clean the street outside, people will say, why should I do it? But if we just did that, if each of us said, it's not just I going and working, it's can I create employment to change the commons? It's so, the important thing is not that everyone should go and work. It helps. But so start small is what we say. Start small. And the Ugly Indian group will give its expertise when they're convinced you have made the effort. So what I will immediately respond to Prakash's commitment and hold him to it, that you will fix one spot every week forever, is that we will very gladly come. And it's only because you showed those photos of what you did before you asked. And so that is the filter or the discipline to anybody who says we want to collaborate. Show us what you've done. Tell us what you found difficult to do. Are you sure you can't do it yourself? Okay, if you really want some expertise, how do you paint a 40-foot wall without scaffolding? I will help you. But, so just as a response to Simran, we encourage people to try something small, fail. Failing is very important. Fail 3 times, you will learn. Thank you.
All right. Takes us to the next question. Someone wants to know, they're not giving the name. They also are interested to remain anonymous. They want to know what permissions are required if their group or their bunch of volunteers would like to do spot fixing.
So again, this stems from our belief that somebody will stop us. Yeah. What we learned very early on was that you understand the law first. If you're not doing anything illegal, nobody will stop you. If you actually try to follow the legal route, you may spend a year in letters and figuring out who is accountable. So okay, let me. I attended a session last week on governance in Bangalore. I'll take a minute to give you a simple situation. If you stand on a street in Bangalore and ask somebody how many government agencies have a finger in this pie, the stake out here, within the BBMP there are at least 8 or 9 departments on every road. Whether it is road, solid waste management, public health, street lighting, stormwater drain, small drains. I'm not mentioned revenue departments. There are 8 or 9 departments in BBMP who have an ownership of your street. Then you have BESCOM, who does not look after street lights. Then you have BWSSB. Then you have the Metro. You might have the Army or the Air Force. You might have public sector units. You might have Ministry of Roads. And you may have the most important one of all, the justice system. There may be, and something might be under litigation. and nobody can help you then. So often the problems that we see are a result of this. If there is very clear ownership of a public space, it's often taken charge of. So the question to ask is, go and do something not illegal. So for example, cleaning a street is not illegal. And in COVID times with the Epidemic Act, you can do much more as the government because of disaster management. So my response to people who say what permissions are required is to say, go and do something and see who stops you. But be very polite about it. If it's public property, inquire who's the owner. But sometimes you may not find the owner. Now just think of the practicality. Supposing there's a government school and there's a problem there, and you go and meet the principal, she'll say, I can't authorize you. You go to the block officer. You go to the BEO, he'll say, I have to go to somebody else. The trouble is it's very difficult for the government to formally authorize public participation on a public space because it's an abdication of their duty. So the spot fixing plays in this very gray zone between what is allowed and not allowed. So our advice to people is just go and talk to someone and say, this is what I plan to do. So if you're planning to clean a place, nobody will stop you. That's what we've learned. If you say, I'm coming to clean garbage, nobody will stop you. But if you say, I would like to paint the wall and put my name on it, then people will say, okay, you're advertising yourself. I'm not sure. So you will learn yourself when you go and ask is to find who will stop you. And so we often do these things where we'll just go and do a pilot attempt and we'll see who stopped us. And this happens a lot in litigated properties in Bangalore. There are 3 parties. One of the parties may be the government. It's contempt of court if the government gets involved. But they know, and I know, and you know that it will take 20 years in the Supreme Court to solve it. And so you say, if that's all you're doing, I will not stop you. So we use this, we call it the NOC. Please get an NOC from everybody who makes it their business to stop you. I know it's a slightly street type answer. It's not a regular answer, but the truth is, if you start writing letters, now we earned our spurs. And so today what has happened is our trust has got formal permission to work on many places. But the problem is, if you have a permission from BBMP, the BWSSP does not honor it. And so you will always find that to add can you become the mayor of your street? Not many people know, except maybe a few on this panel, that you have to go all the way up to the chief minister to find a person to whom all the organizations are accountable to. Right? BBMP, BWSSB, they don't talk to each other. And if you have a case in court, even the chief minister cannot help you. You might have to go to the prime minister if the Ministry of Roads is involved. So the thing is, sometimes you say, I will start from the bottom of the chain. I will go and do what I have to do, and let's see who stops me, and I will do nothing illegal. So don't let permission stop you. Go ahead and just jump in. If I can give you one analogy which worked for us. Supposing suddenly we hear a car skidding right now. There's an accident outside. Somebody's got hurt. What do people do? Today people take photos and selfies and videos. If 50 people have observed an accident, see what happens, it will always be only 2 or 3 people who step up to do something. Nobody asks them, have you got permission? Nobody asks them, are you a doctor? In India, if someone takes the lead in a crisis, everybody else says, good, someone has taken care of the situation, I'll get on with my life, or I'll photograph it for somebody else. Spot fixing is like that. You see a crisis, you jump in to solve it. Everyone knows what you're doing. Nobody asks you, have you got permission if your intent is pure? So that's the answer that we like to give and we go by. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. One question that came offline is what sort of budgets are required for spot fixing? In continuation to that, they would like to know if the budget is a little bigger and if they're able to generate it, then they'll have to also organize a bank account and all that thing. So how do we manage the entire funds part of it?
Okay, so in the first 4 years of the Ugly Indian, when the TED Talk was made, there was no bank account, there was no entity. And I think the speaker gave a simple example that if each of us puts 200 rupees to have a meal, and 10 of us got together and put 2,000 rupees, the beauty of spot fixing is that the labor cost is free when you do it yourself. And the job, for example, what you all did in Jayanagar, if I asked you what was the cost of that, it was the cost of water, and nothing else. It was just love and heart and sweat, right? So you were able to transform a place in Jayanagar, and if an accountant asked you what you spent, it'd probably be the cost of water, right? So actually taking a broom and cleaning a street or taking a mumty and cleaning takes nothing. We often do spot fixes with Bangalore's runners and cyclists who are extremely fit people. And we joke at them and say, you guys spend so much effort to improve your own health and you run on the city streets. How about you put your energy into the city? So it's absolutely possible to fix a spot for free, where the only cost is sweat. There are enough problems that can be solved through human labor. The only thing that actually costs money for small spots is either paint or some earth moving. But even earth moving, it's always easy to have someone say, if you got a JCB, give it to me for half an hour. Often you'll find people with idle assets are happy to give you an asset for half an hour. So if your attitude is problem solving, not how do I raise money, you'll get there. The moment you approach it like I need money, you've lost the battle, because it's not about money, it's about will. Now, once you have got the model, how do you raise money? It's not very difficult. It could be a personal donation from one person. It could be through a company. My advice to people is that the Ugly Indian reached a point where it was copied all over India without a bank account. That is not essential. On the contrary, if you want to raise money, it's absolutely straightforward. You meet a chartered accountant, you can set up a trust. There's nothing complicated about it. It's a very standard procedure. So let's not elevate spot fixing to some special activity. It is like setting up, for example, any other charitable activity. So you could just set up, the answer to the question is speak to a chartered accountant, set up a trust, raise donations and use it for whatever activity you like, one of which could be spot fixing.
Nagesh, if I can make a comment.
Yeah, sure.
Just to place it on record, the spot fixing we did in Jainagar, somebody arranged for a tractor because there was a tractor load of jelly and cement that had hardened all along the footpath. Eventually, it became a tractor load. Unbelievable that there was so much there. And somebody arranged for water and hosing and to clean it, and somebody arranged for for all the implements that we needed to clean the place. And we still don't have an account of who spent what. And as far as permissions are concerned, while we were working on it, a lot of people stopped and stared at what we were doing and went past. Not a single person spoke to us, asked us why we are doing, who gave us permission, nothing. The Ugly Indian is absolutely right. Nobody stopped us from doing this.
Prakash, thank you so much, because if you had not done this, you would not have appreciated this. And the questions we get are only if you don't try it. It's like swimming or cycling. You can never theoretically learn these things. You have to go jump, you have to go fall. And what you said is absolutely right. Once you start working, the world conspires to help you, because in India, this is one more stereotypical thing. We are looking for leaders. We are excellent followers in this country. We like to make stars out of people. So whoever takes the first step, you will get support. This somebody that you mentioned, somebody always emerges with tractors, with refreshments, with funds. We have got innumerable examples where resident welfare associations in Bangalore struggle to get subscriptions. Affluent parts of Bangalore, you say, pay 200 rupees a month to join the RWA. It's very hard to get sponsorship. The moment we go to a spot fix, we started just keeping a box and say, come and put money in the box. And I still recall in 2011, in a neighborhood in Bangalore where they were struggling to get subscriptions, we had about 12,000 rupees put in the box by anonymous people. So by allowing anonymous donations, see, just think of how Indians react in a crisis, a disaster, a cyclone, COVID. We pour our hearts out. Ask yourself, can you be the person that provokes Indians to support? But somebody has to take the lead, and that's what we find. There's a lack of leadership. SpotFix is a great example. Jump in, start working, don't direct people, do. And the other thing to point out is that the somebody is often the invisible. The auto driver, the policeman, the man on the street loves what you do, and they are actually the biggest asset. Often many of us who are middle class or who are urban don't know how to work with our hands, actually. We may have the intent, we may have all the jargon, but we don't know how to literally take a broom and work for 10 minutes. Sweeping a street is not easy. In fact, I want to share one thing with everybody out here, that if you think that you can clean a street, should you not first spend one day cleaning the street? I mean, what gives you the right to decide that you can clean a street? So all of us have done the work of a Paura Karmika for one day. Go and work for 5 hours, push that cart. is there any field of work where you can become an expert, where you have not even done day one of the internship job of that field? So we have asked people, spend a day just following the Parikarmika, don't do her work, see what she does, follow the auto truck. It's a very tough discipline. But most of the people who have worked on the Ugly Indian do not think twice about plunging into a drain, picking up something filthy. It's hard work. And so sometimes we tell people who ask questions, if you think you can solve this problem, give it some respect first. Go out and work. You'll be surprised for people to work. Sometimes you take 20 people and say, each of you work for 1 hour, that's 20 man hours. That is the work of 2 Parikarmikas. And you see how much you can achieve. We do these challenges. Work for 20 people, work for an hour, and can you clear 1 kilometer of road? 1 kilometer is what a Parikarma is supposed to do every day. And then they realize that this lady, who's often in her 50 plus with no equipment, is far more efficient in what she does than what able-bodied, young, in this case, software professionals do. So the thing that we try hard is that do not, see, this is a very cultural thing that in India, we treat street cleaning as somebody else's job. It's obviously feudal and there's a caste issue and many things. The beauty of the Ugly Indian, and we don't state it, is that it levels the playing field. When everybody jumps into the drain, in India, that's a very, very big deal. And there are lots of intangible social benefits that come out of it. And so, again, to return to what Prakash said, you had never thought about what it cost. You can't account for this. You can achieve incredible amount without money. Just go in and do it.
Thank you so much. I think we just have time for one last question. Namita has been writing. So I was at her question. Yeah. So she says, TUI and all the amazing volunteers have continued to inspire many across the country, including us in Gurgaon. So she's from Gurgaon. COVID has altered the way of life and also highlighted why TUI's mission and the mindset shift is even more important for communities and cities going forward. But how do you see the spot fixing approach changing from pre to post-COVID? And what advice would you have for groups that have been erratic, mostly due to lack of community response, particularly up north in the country where it is usually challenging? What is the key to keep the momentum going? Thank you.
Thank you. It's a valid question. In the question, there were 2 words which blamed somebody else, the community. So the crucial thing in the Ugly Indian is you cannot blame anybody. If it has not worked, it is your fault. You have to own the solution. The moment you say that I am doing something and nobody is following me, then you're not doing it well enough if you believe you need help. Often you will find that you don't need lots of volunteers. You need a few committed people to see it through. So that is one response. In the COVID time, what we have done is, the biggest problem in COVID is lack of employment. So a lot of people who can work from home are those who are educated, who have office jobs. But a bulk of our country are people who are blue collar, who are skilled workers who cannot work from home. So what we've done in Bangalore is we said, we will continue with our mission to clean streets, but rather than invite volunteers, we will create employment. So think about it. Why should I get 5 people who work in a software company to come on a Saturday to solve a 24/7 problem? If my problem is a 24-hour problem, it cannot be solved by a weekend part-time solution. How about we all put money and hire 3 people and train them in spot fixing? So we moved from this community has to do everything to let's solve it, create employment, and have proper solutions. So I'm speaking from experience. At this point, there are about 10 or 15 people who have got full-time jobs to do spot fixing. Because why should it be a community? Community can get involved, but cannot own it. So I do not agree that there is a ethnic or a geographic thing. There are enough parts in Bangalore where communities are not involved at all. But so what? If you want your street clean, you should do it. So if there are 100 people on the street and one person says, I want to clean it, the other 99 can join if they want to, but they don't need to. So we actually found in COVID that the Ugly Indian philosophy worked very well, where it always came back to individual responsibility. A practical example was people needed food and rations and various things, and large companies, governments, NGOs did excellent work. But we asked a simple question: can you help one family on your street? That's it. Just help one family, share your food. And we tasked 20 people to do it. And each of those 20 people ended up supporting 100 families, because it's basically asking, what can I do? So COVID also showed that there was a crisis and you respond with the same idea. What can I do in my means? And it doesn't matter if I don't get support. Thank you.
I have one question myself. If any NGOs, organizations, individuals, groups, RWS, if anyone wants to adopt a street or even adopt a tree, for instance, you have anything to tell us about it from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So as of February, we signed an MOU with the BBMP where actually there's actually a website called Adopt a Street BBMP where you could formally apply, and 50 companies and groups applied and 75 streets were identified. And we had a launch ceremony for March 17th, just before the lockdown. So it didn't happen. So the answer to the question is yes, there is a formal way to say, I want to adopt the trees on my street. I want to adopt the street. I want to adopt my ward. And what we can do is two things. Maybe Nagesh can share the email address of the Ugly Indian. It is the Ugly Indians, the plural, @gmail.com. Or if there is some way to reach people, it is formally possible to apply. Because of lockdown, it may get delayed, but absolutely yes. What has happened is that now is a formal legal enabling environment for you to adopt one tree or to adopt an entire highway. So yes, the answer is yes.
On that note, I request our Environment Director, Prakash Belwadi, to propose the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Nagesh. I really, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the Rotary family, as also as a simple citizen of Bengaluru, I would like to thank the Ugly Indian for actually coming here, talking to us, and being so straightforward, simple, and so inspiring. And we hope that Rotary can learn from this and have the confidence to, I love that, the way that thing has got paraphrased, Gandhiji's line, see the change you want to be. I think it's a fantastic thing. And the final thing I want to say to the Ugly Indian is that this idea that we won't align with any political, party or ideology is so important in this unique way that this is a uniting idea. A clean street makes everyone happy, regardless of which party the person belongs to, regardless of age and gender, regardless of what caste, community, religion the person belongs to. I think it is so important to find unifying ideas, and what more can be unifying than having this place that we can be, a clean place that we can all love, where we reside, and where our children, our siblings, our friends, our colleagues live. So thank you very much, and we hope there'll be much more that we can learn from you, and because we may need some, holding of hands and mentoring through this process. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been such a wonderful, meaningful morning today. And you all have a wonderful Sunday. And let's spot fix Bangalore and own it.